Welcome, everybody, to the NeuroMasters show, where we uncover the transformative powers of the mind. I'm Reg Malhotra, your host, and I'm here to guide you with practical tools and inspiring stories grounded in neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis. Now, whether you're a high achiever feeling stuck or a growth seeker looking to overcome setbacks, join us each week to break through barriers and achieve profound personal and professional growth. So let's dive in and unlock your potential.
Hello and welcome back to the NeuroMasters Podcast. Today we are diving into the minds of high performers. These are people who always push for more, and not because they're never happy, but because something deeper drives them. And Reg Malhotra is here to explain why high performers sometimes can be misunderstood and what makes them different, what's going on maybe beneath the surface. So, Reg, thank you for being here to talk about high performers with us.
Pleasure to be here, and it's a great topic.
So you've worked with many high performers. Can you tell us what's one thing that maybe people don't understand about high performers in general?
Yes, I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of them. And let's define what a high performer means in this context. You know, uh, High perform someone who is always looking to perform uh, better than the last time, or someone who doesn't need to be told that they need to do more or better or different. Someone who's naturally got the wiring of you know doing great, doing excellent. And there's a lot of people like that. Now, why that happens, there's a lot of reasons because of upbringing, because of specific experiences or significant events. There would be so much more. There are so many other variables why some people are always looking to push the boundaries, right? And I've had the chance to work with a lot of doctors, engineers, business owners, salespeople, sports people. There's a whole category of people where the profession they've chosen, the purpose they've chosen in itself brings in a requirement to improve, to be better, to get better results. And what I've found is that they're so fabulous to work with, right? Firstly, because you don't have to convince them or persuade them that they need to do better. However, they can easily be misunderstood. They can easily be misunderstood. They can come across, well, they not may not even come across that way. It's how others who are maybe themselves are quite okay with where they are in life, or for whatever reason they don't want to take on any more discomfort to try and be better. And so these high performers can be misunderstood by them. They could be taken as greedy, or they never feel they're enough. Imagine you're someone who's reasonably well off, and you've got the things that a lot of people strive for, but you've got those. And then you're talking about this new venture, this new project, this new idea. Someone listening to it might be thinking, why do you need to? But what they don't understand is the wiring is so different. To them, it's not something they need to do always to prove something. It's just who they are. For whatever number of reasons, it's who they are. It's like asking a racehorse on race day to walk. It's not who it is, right? It's like asking a Formula One car to park outside a school or something. So I think the key thing to know is, yeah, this that it does come with some issues, as does everything. But here's what I've realized by working with a lot of them: success leaves clues, and they are more likely to act upon guidance. They're more likely to try things. Of course, they beat themselves up a lot too, which is something we'll talk about later in this episode. But that's what I would say. There's a lot of misunderstanding on from the outside for these kind of people, as to because they don't fully understand the motivation behind why high performers and high achievers consistently are looking to do more, to be more, and many times to even give more, to create more.
You say that high performers are wired differently. What do you mean by that?
I mean that they, and this comes from NLP, their inner programs, their motivational factors, for a number of reasons, for certain events that happen in their life, for certain things that may have been said to them, certain things they've been exposed to through their life, it becomes by wired, I mean, becomes part of their nature. That's just who they are. They their values, their belief systems, their thought processes, and their model of the world all are in line with doing more, doing better, performing, getting more out of yourself. It's what makes them feel alive. It's what makes them feel alive.
You said that there might be something in their past, maybe their upbringing, a previous event in their life that fuels that ambition. You've said before that past events can be they can be um, they can be interpreted negatively and create a real stress on someone. They can also be interpreted positively and create that type of ambition. Can you maybe explain a little bit about that? How a past event could maybe lead someone in a very positive direction? We think often of past events and we think, oh, that's just really bad, negative stuff. Often it can be a good thing.
That's right. I mean, major events that cause significant emotions plant a seed every single time. It'll either give you a limiting belief or an empowering belief. It will either plant you with impossibility or possibility. It can either give you a hunger or complacency. And that's what events do. Whenever there's a cocktail of emotions experience, something changes inside of it. And that's how wiring develops over a period of time. New ideas, new programs develop. I mean, think about if something major happened in your life, you were in an accident, it would immediately shift your belief systems and what's important to you. You think about what happened with COVID. A lot of things, people was, it was such a big shock that people changed what they thought life should be. And a lot of people moved to the country, and a lot of people changed their jobs, and a lot of people changed their locations, a lot of people changed partners. Right? Um, so same way for, if you had a parent who kind of pushed you, if you will, positively or negatively, to be an achiever, that could lead to you either being an achiever so you can continually prove to them that you're good enough. And that still can be a good thing to a point, to a point. Or it can push you, that kind of event or experience, especially if something was said or done or witnessed, it could lead you naturally, oriented towards what's possible, moving towards as opposed to moving away from. So it can go both ways. I mean, talking to a lot of high achievers, a lot of them have done it for long enough, and even where they became a high performer, high achiever because of a negative thing, because now they had to spend their life trying to prove that they can make it. But because they've done it for long enough, that's just who they become now. They can just relax and sit back now. All they need to do, though, to get more fulfilling outcomes and that's we help them a lot with that, is to focus, is to change the orientation, no longer wanting to prove to someone else. And it becomes a journey of conquering oneself, right? Of seeing what more can come out of oneself, of enjoying that thrill. And some of these high performers, they become like that. They welcome the obstacles. They know, even though it might hurt them at the time, maybe troubling, but they know they have a history that they come out being somebody else at the other side. It's a very fascinating this whole. I know myself. I consider myself somewhat of a high performer in the way that I've gone about my life and career, but I certainly had a moment where realized, doing all this work and learning all these things, that oh my god, my desire for achievement is coming due to a reason that no longer exists. The people that I need to show up, I don't need to show them anymore. It was
Mm.
just so different, and it became extremely purposeful.
Is that often how it shifts? You say in your own experience that you were doing it maybe initially to uh, perhaps prove something to someone, and then you came to a realization that you didn't need to prove it to anyone. It, does it ever create a problem for a high performer that they realize they don't have to prove it to anyone and that takes away their motivation, or does
It
that
can.
accelerate their motivation?
It can take away the motivation. Absolutely. It can take away that motivation. That's why, at the time, if someone is consciously wanting to change that, one should definitely attach a new idea, a new purpose, a new vision of self. Otherwise, you're right, because motivation is a kinesthetic thing. It's a it's that urge. It's that thing that doesn't make you snooze the alarm clock. It's that drive. It's that excitement for what's possible. It's like a thrill. And if it's anxiety driven, then it's driven by proving somebody wrong, not feeling not good enough any longer, not being able to respect oneself unless one is achieving those things. I must admit, they have an expiry, because at some point they start to turn against you. Because what can happen is, no matter how much you achieve, you feel lack. That's scary. That's problematic. That is going to lead to all sorts of different dramas in relationships, in health, in deceit. And I've come across plenty of people like that. So when it changes, it needs to have an evaluation so that there is a healthy new purpose attached, because the person now has the neurology to achieve. They say you can go 100 miles an hour and land up at the wrong place, and that's a problem. But now you have the neurology to move at 100 miles per hour. So now the achiever has the neurology of an achiever. It's got to guide it in a different way, and sometimes it may come with a little bit of pullback temporarily. And so that's what I really find. And the other thing I find with high achievers, they're almost cute. They just tell me what to do, Reg, I'll do it. Right? I believe it's high achievers that have really expanded the coaching and mentoring industry, because they're always looking for, what do I need? What do I need to know? What is it I don't know that I need to know? Right? What is a skill I don't have? Yeah. Am I making the best use of my time? These are great questions that these people run. And lately I'm finding that with a lot of doctors as well. They wouldn't be a doctor if they weren't a high achiever in the first place, right?
It seems as though they come from a place of these questions that they're asking. Tell me what to do. What do I need to learn? What's the next step? Doesn't necessarily come from a place of lack, but from a curious mindset. They're curious about what's next, and that becomes a motivating factor. Does that play into it
Well,
at all?
when I initially work with them, meet them, go through what the model of the world is, many times is coming from lack.
Hmm.
Many times. That's precisely what we work on. We make sure that they are shifting the driver, and then you know you utilizing the neurology of success. That's very common for people to feel, and that's why a lot of these people, when a lot of high achievers don't celebrate wins, because to them it's not the completion that's the win. It's like now they're looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think people got to understand them and be able to work with them. It's the ones that push the boundaries. It's the one that there's a difference between being content and being satisfied. They can be content, but they're not necessarily satisfied. They don't believe that that is all there is. It's a very interesting psychology. I think there's a lot of people who are built that way. And the other problem that can happen with them is, what can drive them is comparison. These are all
Yeah.
the things that we work on. Imagine not being motivated necessarily by proving that can be very useful to a certain point, proving someone else wrong. Someone said to me the other day, "Why would anyone be an entrepreneur? That's just crazy. That's crazy, right? Why would anyone be an entrepreneur, right?" But the thing with most entrepreneurs is that most of them, I heard this, are trying to prove something to someone else. That's what effectively makes someone an entrepreneur. So in a way, it can be good. It gets you moving in that direction. But I think there's a point at which you need to just then it turns to proving to oneself. I know that I went through all of that. There's a point I need to prove certain things to myself. Then when that was done, proven a lot of things, fortunately for me with the work we do, I was able to attach something more of the experience of life that I want, the mark that I want to leave. You see, there's like a phased approach, and it's some people will unfortunately never get out of that proving someone else, and that could be because of a significant emotional event, could be a family member, it could be people at school. I don't care. You heard all these stories about people who, you know, graduate from school and then they had such a tough time at school, and only thing that drives them is to prove them all wrong.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
problem is if they're not around to see your results, now you can feel unfulfilled potentially. So there's a natural, but I think the broader theory here is that high performers are humans. They have their own significant emotional events. They have their own limiting beliefs. Every level comes with a new set of limiting beliefs. They beat them. Nobody beats themselves up and more than high achievers. No one, because that's a good thing and a bad thing. So this has got to be a very balanced discussion. It's a good thing because they have high standards. They don't like lower standards of themselves. The bad thing is they can forget to celebrate the win. They can forget to celebrate how far they've come and then back be in that place of I haven't done enough.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point to make, that if you are a high performer, but you never feel like it's enough, as you say, you're just going to chase over and over and over and over the next thing, and nothing, I imagine, will be enough. That leads to, I mean, we hear about this all the time, high performers experiencing burnout. They get
Yeah.
to a certain point and then they just can't do it anymore. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship there between that constant need to get to the next level and then reaching that point of burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. I think burnout is a very interesting point. Firstly, I would say this: telling a high performer to stop is like asking the ocean to stop making waves. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah,
Ain't gonna happen. And I
yeah.
have a very interesting theory on burnout. Burnout, right? Burnt out of what?
Mm.
So there is a physical component to it because the physical mental component because when you lose your clarity, when you lose your, uh, you know, your ability to pursue an action plan, when you just putting out fires, when you are not being able to leverage assistance, when you feel that you will be seen as weak, asking for help, all of those contribute to burnout. The other thing, the critical thing, according to me, that contributes to burnout is when your values shift. See, values are what's most important to us. Over the course of one's career, one's path, what's important to them could have changed, but now they have an image to keep. They have an image to preserve, and I that's one of the common things that come up with my work with high achievers. A lot of them, they're they have a history of achievement, and now they've created this image, and that's how everyone
Mm.
sees them.
Yeah.
Looking weak or asking for help or changing course can hit their ego, right? Even though their values may have shifted. Suddenly, you may have had a value of, say, having a certain kind of lifestyle or having, getting certain awards or getting the company to a certain revenue level. It may be very, very important to you. But at some point, travel, experiencing life, exploring the may become more of a value because you've been on one and suddenly you want to do it more, but you now you got to keep up with what you've created. So other values could shift, your families, your health, but you're still doing what you've been doing. You're not carving out enough time, energy for these new values. Now that conflict, in my view, is what leads to a burnout because you're burning out of old values. You're burning out the old values, but your reality is not aligning with that.
Is part of the work that you do with students to help them understand what their values truly are? I imagine that there is perhaps an amount of guilt that goes along with being a high performer too,
Yeah.
because as you're pursuing something, it's at the expense of other things as well. And I'm just guessing here. You've worked with so many high performers. Do they come to you and say, "I want more balance in my life"? Is that part of what they're looking for as well?
That always comes up, maybe not in that necessarily in that direct way, looking for more balance. It more comes up as a problem.
Hmm.
Uh, and it doesn't often come up like it's because of my work or because of my goals, personal goals. It's less about that. It's just a realization that something else is not working in their life and they've been ignoring it for long. You know, it could typically has been a relationship not working as well as it should. So, my experience, have been very good at asking for help with that. That relationship is not working as well. I got to make. There's never a mention of I got to slow down with what I'm doing.
Hmm.
It's more about give me the tools, give me the things that I can make this thing also good. Again, it's the high achiever syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like I want this to be awesome. My experience at least rarely come from balance because the idea of balance doesn't exist in a high achiever. Just so you know, it's a myth. In the high achieving world. It's not necessarily important to balance. It's understanding what do I need to let go of,
Hmm.
what do I need to not focus on, what do I need to not care about, so I can focus on the top things that matter. That's sort of where the discussions normally get to. Balance doesn't exist in there, because balance should happen, should be relative to the person.
Right.
Relative to the person. If my marriage and my business are both working okay, but I'm not necessarily doing one of my hobbies that I like, that may not feel imbalanced. It may feel at this point in time, I'm going to put most of my energy in there. But one of the other things I note with high achievers is there's a very big correlation, and I think I got to study that more. True high achievers who are more fulfilled, I'm finding that they have an incredible focus on health.
Hmm.
They're the ones you'll see working out no matter what. I used to have this saying that the more you do, the more you can do. I got it after watching over a period of time. I'm watching these moms that were my students, and they're they got a they got a job, they got children, they're doing something else, they're just doing a ton of things. And I realized something: the more you do, the more you can do. Of course, again, which places is it coming from? But it's like the rhythm. You develop the rhythm. You know what they say: if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. It's the rhythm. It's a pattern. The less you do, the less you can do. So in a way, everybody needs to be a high achiever of some type. But typical high achievers who go from achieving one thing to another, they also they have the natural ability to not give up. They don't know how to. Right? Even though we say there are times when you need to know when to quit to start something else or do something else. And that's one of the other areas that we work through and just make sure they sometimes, especially when they spend years doing something, and it's like people who go to college and they do a degree and they come out and then they hate that job, but they can't let it go now because they've spent the money, they spend the time. That's who they are now. It's the identity issue. Like, who will they be without that? Even though the best thing for them would be to quit that path, pick another one. That goes with that. So balance is, I don't know if that word balance comes out a lot of their mouth. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. When you are working with high performers, what are some ways that you help them maybe channel their drive without burning out? Because that's a big risk.
Without burning out, yeah. Channel their drive. We do evaluation of values. We look at significant emotional events from the past. We make sure that there is less energy, more energy available in the energy cube. Less it's tied up to the past. We make sure that we know the root cause for the comparison. We make sure that we work together to figure out um, tools and techniques that they can use on demand. That they love doing that. They love doing that. Like I can get myself out of this situation, this mindset, this mood. Sure, give it to me, right? And so that makes it easy. It doesn't mean they don't have their problems, but it's more about and clarity through discussion. Like, are you? Why did you start this, right? And of course, a lot of them are not everyone. Not a lot of them are not everyone. They are motivated by money, but there is a healthy relationship with money, and money is the tool that is a reward that they see for the work they put in. They generally don't have resistance to receiving money. That's half the problem, right? People say I don't want money, but in reality they have resistance to receiving money. That's a common trait with them, that they're like, okay, money is a tool. Genuine high achievement is a tool. It's going to help me get to my goals.
We've been talking a lot about high achievers, and you mentioned that they're wired differently. They maybe think differently. What if there are people listening who want to achieve more? They're not necessarily performing at the level they want to be at. Can they become a high performer? Are there steps they could take to become a more high performing person?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that question crosses everybody's mind at some point. Like, how can I do more? How can I create more? How can I get more out of myself? And I think everybody can. It's the same sequence of steps. You got to bring your energy back. You got to become clear on what it is you want, why you want it. You got to lock it in. Now, we see some powerful exercises to lock it into your subconscious, right? You got to regularly live, act as if, can you act as if? Here's some
Mm.
series of questions. What do you want? Here's a series of questions I'm going to give you. What do you want? How is it possible that you don't have it now? What will you see, hear, and feel when you have it, right? Is it self initiated? Are you sufficiently in charge of it? See, lottery is not a good goal. You're not sufficiently in charge of it, right? How will you know you have it? This is called evidence procedure. So you can either change course or keep going. There's a series of powerful questions to ask oneself in order to figure out, and in order to find that one thing that you're willing to handle any obstacles for. Because the moment you set a goal, it automatically comes with obstacles. If you have a goal with no obstacles, it's not a goal. So this whole game is about conditioning yourself to be able to deal with obstacles, right? So how will you know you have it? Do you know anyone who's had it before? You got to turn your mind in these directions. Do you know anyone who's had it? Is it ecological? Is it win-win? A lot of the time, people don't achieve their goals because deeply they know it's hurting somebody, whether it's their family, whatever. So the goal has to be right for you. In this day and age, when especially in a lot of the free world, when you can choose any goal, people choose either a goal that is too big, so it gets overwhelming, so they don't get started, or it's too small, so it gets boring. The goal has to be right for you. When the goal is right for you, the high performance comes.
Yeah.
Because high performance, in a nutshell, is the ability to keep going, is the ability to handle obstacles, is the ability to discover and seek and you know be creative. It's a very interesting life. It's a very adventurous life. It has ups and downs. It provides more resources for one to actualize themselves. So it's asking the right questions. You know, so where was the last one I read? Okay, so do you know anyone who's ever done it before? What will happen if you do get it? What will happen if you don't get it? What won't happen if you get it? What won't happen if you don't get it? There's a whole series of questions one can ask, right? So first we look at the appropriateness on the goal of the goal. In NLP, we call it, is it well formed? Is it well formed? Here's some other steps: that is the first step verifiable and achievable? The
Mm.
very first step. And do you know the pathway to get there? You don't have to do it, but do you know the pathway? Do you know off the pathway to get there? All of these things, then what they do is, first thing is, and then removing any hidden mental barriers and mental weeds, the limiting decisions, who you think you can and cannot be, whatever your parents said to you, whatever your family said to you, whatever your friends said to you. You have to remove all of that. Major significant emotions in the events in the past that hurt your confidence, you have to clean that up. There are many ways of doing that. remove, test that you feel emotions. So you remove the negative barriers, and then assess the appropriateness of the goal. Then you install it in yourself, and then the most important thing is this action plan, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
mindset is very important, but what is also important is skill set and action set, because you gotta break your big goal down into pillars, and then have my daily micro actions. If you can get up every day and take one micro action under each pillar, do that daily, you develop what's called a rhythm of accomplishment, and it is a mysterious force that gets behind your keys, carries you forward. That in a nutshell is a high performer. But you're right. I would say a good more than 50% of high performers are high performers because of something they're running away from, some feeling that they never want to experience again. That's also high performance. I've dealt with enough CEOs to know that a lot of them have that drive because they never want to experience what they experienced before. They never want to hear what they heard before, you know. And I think their ultimate fulfillment, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And the ultimate fulfillment will come when they can take that neurology of success, that action taking, the performance, but orient it in a different way, align it, combine it with something that is part of their vision, part of something that, what we say, other people centeredness or other centeredness. A compelling vision of the future plus other people centeredness is the formula for approaching high performance, in my view, in a sustainable way.
I think that's really motivational, both for high performers and people who aspire to be high performers. I think.
Yes.
Can you share a story because you've worked with so many high performers? Can you talk about maybe someone that you worked with that came to you, and whether it was burnout or um, maybe they were chasing something and they could never get that fulfillment? How did you help them have both purpose, drive, but also peace in
I
life?
think what comes to mind is in a lot of cases, I've seen high performers who have a history of performance. They've done great things. They've made good money. Even they're just naturally just want to break barriers. And I love listening to them sometimes. The more common thing I've seen is when they've had a relationship breakdown, a
Mhm.
divorce, and they've often said these lines like, I want to get my mojo back. And they start to resent the person they are now. They want that fire back. But the process we take is to get them to get peace on what has happened, develop practical strategies to manage their mind and their emotions, to then get back on track. Another example that comes to mind is this gentleman who you may not you may or may not recall, the global financial crisis,
Mhm.
2009. And he did some kind of finance work or financial advising work or something of that order, investing people's money, lost a lot of his clients' money. And he found his way to come to one of our hypnosis for high performance training. And one of the things he said to me, and this was in front of the class, he said, look, my biggest problem is I'm procrastinating. That's my problem. And through a series of questions, I was able to evaluate that it's not the procrastination, actually. uh, from 2009 to 2024, I think it was a 23, so it was nearly 15 years. And his vision was to create, he had this great idea of making affordable housing in North America. Great. But for nearly 15 years, he'd done nothing about it. So, and he's calling that procrastinating. Through a few questions, we were able to evaluate that there was massive guilt from the global financial crisis, has not forgiven himself, super embarrassed at the fact he lost people's money, that basically froze him. One training gym, one program he did with us, and he has gone on and literally just got rid of that one thing. And he has the seeds of success. He wants to do great things for others, other people's centeredness. Right? A lot of these high achievers, they have a desire to leave a legacy, to leave a mark, to leave
Yeah,
something better, to make a difference. And I just absolutely love working with these people.
that's a fantastic story. And Reg, I think just overall, this is an inspiring message for high performers who are listening today. Any final words?
My final words is to high performers is to practice and work on being able to celebrate your wins. Right? High performers have this tendency, they will ignore the win, because the moment they have a win, they've completed something, they're scanning for the next thing. Must take that moment to celebrate wins. um, you see, if you're a high performer, you're going to see your flaws faster than anyone else. That's another key determinant of high performer. They see their flaws faster than anyone else. That's why I said they beat themselves the most. They will replay conversations in their head. Right? They will spot the one mistake in the middle of 100 wins. They'll push themselves harder than anyone else would dare. And that's not necessarily the problem. The problem is how they use, if you're a high performer, how you use your self awareness. Because left unchecked, it will become a wrecking ball and will smash confidence, it will fuel burnout, and it will make you blind to your progress. But used well, it'll become your greatest competitive advantage, the self-awareness piece that is. So here's some of the ways to do it. Here's how to make the shift. Right? Name the problem without owning it. For example, instead of saying I failed, say that didn't work. Right? I failed means it's me now. I'm owning it. I'm becoming it my identity. That didn't work. You're not the mistake. You just made one. Number two, look for the lesson, not the label. So ask, what can I learn instead of what's wrong with me? You see, avoid going back to that me level, going to the me level, and look at the behavior, the outcome, the problem objectively. Number three, balance the equation. For every criticism, name one thing you did well. That's for anyone listening. And this keeps your mental books honest because there are wins even in losses. Number four, make sure you write these down. Set standards, not swords. You see, high standards, they fuel growth. But when those standards become weapons against you, turn on yourself, they stop serving you. And number five, last but not the least, act. Don't spiral. The moment you see the gap, decide the next move, decide the next step, and then move. Action interrupts overthinking. A lot of high performers are also overthinkers.
That is fantastic. I need a notepad to be writing that down myself.
You gotta go back and listen to it. Yeah, there's five there, and I think everyone should write them down and reflect on
Absolutely.
those.
Reg, thank you as always for sharing your insights. And for those of you listening at home, you've got the 5 steps. When you're listening to this, write it down. If you're a high performer or an aspiring high performer, we hope that you learned something today, and we're thankful that you joined us. And we'll see you again next time.
Thank you for those questions. Great. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the NeuroMasters show. I'm Reg Malhotra, reminding you that your trauma is seen, your transformation is possible, and your breakthrough is right around the corner. If you found today's episode valuable, you can visit our website for many more resources, to register for a live breakthrough experience, and to continue your journey of reclaiming your full self.